Every country on Earth is in debt. Some owe billions, others owe trillions. Many have been in debt longer than most citizens have been alive. Here's the mystery no one explains clearly. If every nation is a debtor, who exactly is the creditor? Who gets paid when governments borrow? Who collects interest when entire economies struggle? And how did debt become the one thing that outlived empires, wars, currencies, and ideologies? This isn't a story about one villain or a secret room of masterminds. So it's far more unsettling than that. Because the empire that owns the world's debt has no flag, no army, and no capital city. Yet it influences governments more than voters ever could. To understand it, we have to follow the money. It's all the way back to where modern power quietly shifted hands. For most of human history, power was visible. Kings ruled with armies. Empires expanded with conquest. Control was enforced through land, force, and fear. But finance changed that. By the late medieval period, something new emerged alongside monarchs: creditors. Merchants and bankers who didn't rule land but ruled cash flow. Kings discovered a dangerous truth. Wars could be won faster with borrowed money than with raised taxes. And lenders discovered an even more dangerous truth. A king in debt listens more closely than a king with gold. This quiet relationship between rulers and financiers would shape the next 500 years. The modern system begins in Europe. In the 1600s, governments were unstable, wars were constant, and tax collection was inefficient. Borrowing became essential. England formalized the relationship in 1694 with the creation of the Bank of England, a private institution designed to lend to the government in exchange for guaranteed interest. This was revolutionary for the first time. Governments didn't need to fully repay debt. Debt could roll over indefinitely. Interest became permanent income for creditors. National debt stopped being an emergency measure, became a business model. Other nations followed. Central banks appeared, government bonds were issued, debt markets expanded, states gained access to endless funding at a cost. Fast forward to the 20th century, 2 world wars shattered economies and normalized massive borrowing. Gold-backed currencies became restrictive. Governments needed flexibility. Enter the modern global financial system. After World War II, new institutions emerged. International lending bodies, global bond markets, central bank coordination. Debt was no longer national. It was international. Countries borrowed from markets, not monarchs, from institutions, not individuals, from systems, not people. This made debt feel neutral, technical, inevitable. But something critical changed. Debt was now enforced not by armies but by policy pressure. Interest rates, credit ratings, currency access, trade conditions. A nation could be free and still economically trapped. So who owns the debt? Here's the delayed answer. No single entity does. And that's exactly why the system is so powerful. Debt is owned by central banks, commercial banks, pension funds, insurance companies, investment funds, governments themselves. It's a web, not a throne. But the rules of the web, who sets interest rates, who creates money, who decides liquidity, are concentrated. Power doesn't come from owning all the debt. It comes from designing the system that requires it. And that system rewards one thing above all else: perpetual borrowing. For decades, debt grew faster than economies. Governments rolled over obligations. Central banks suppressed rates. Markets assumed growth would always catch up. Financial crises exposed the fragility. Debt bubbles, banking collapses, bailouts paid by the public. Instead of reducing debt, the response was more debt. Interest rates fell towards zero. Money creation accelerated. Balance sheets exploded. The system couldn't stop. Stopping meant collapse. The fallout wasn't equal. Governments survived. Banks consolidated. Markets recovered. But citizens absorbed the cost. Inflation reduced purchasing power, public services were cut, taxes rose, savings lost value, debt wasn't repaid. It was transferred from institutions to individuals, from balance sheets to everyday life. And the empire remained invisible. Every proposed fix avoids the same truth. Austerity punishes citizens. Stimulus inflates assets. Rate hikes destabilize markets. Rate cuts reward leverage. No solution addresses the core dependency. Modern states are built on debt that can never realistically be eliminated, so the system adapts instead. New instruments, new programs, new narratives. Debt isn't solved, it's managed. Look at today. Global debt is higher than ever. Currencies weaken. Central banks coordinate responses. Markets react instantly to policy hints. Nations appear sovereign yet move in sync. Not because of conspiracy, but because they share the same financial architecture. When one struggles, others follow. When rates change, the world reacts. When liquidity tightens, pain spreads. The empire doesn't command, it conditions. So what is the invisible empire? It's not a group of people, it's a structure, system where debt is permanent, money is expandable, growth is mandatory. Stability depends on confidence, and confidence depends on belief. As long as people believe the system works, it does, until it doesn't. Global debt isn't owned by one master, but controlled by a shared system that benefits from its existence. Economic power today comes from rule setting, not ownership. Debt doesn't need to be repaid to exert control, it only needs to be renewed. Here's the open-ended thought to leave you with. What happens when confidence finally breaks, not in one country, but across the system itself? History shows that no financial order lasts forever. The invisible empire doesn't fall loudly. It fades, replaced by something new. The only question is who understands it early, and who doesn't. If this changed how you see money, power, and debt, subscribe. Because the next story isn't about the empire, it's about what comes after.